Give us 30 minutes each week to discover the trends that are shaping the future of retirement with That Annuity Show. We bring you conversations with industry leaders who are revolutionizing financial products, technology, and distribution channels. Now, here's your host, Paul Tyler.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of That Annuity Show. Well, not really just, I guess, another episode. This really is a new chapter for our show. It's now a joint production of NASA and Zinnia, my new employer, and still have a regular host. Ramsey couldn't join us, but I've got Tisa and Bruno here. Bruno, good to see you.
Good to see you, and congrats on the new role.
Thank you. Tisa,
Good morning, Paul.
Yeah.
It feels just like any other Friday. We're just sitting in different seats, so nice to see you.
Yeah, well, listen, I especially want to welcome a new guest co-host, and we'll be rotating, some in. Michael Selly, who is the Chief Product Officer for Zinnia. Michael, welcome.
Thanks, Paul, and thank you, Jan and team, for allowing Paul to come over to Zinnia. We're very happy to have him.
Yeah, we'll come back. Michael, just give people just maybe a snapshot of kind of what do you do at Zinnia?
So at Zinnia, I came on board about 3 years ago, and the focus is helping to transform Zinnia from what it was a classical TPA to more of a product and tech company, along with a TPA to support the industry. So I'm responsible for kind of everything we build and why do we build it, for the most part.
Excellent. All right. Well, I get the pleasure of introducing our special guest, who is a returning guest. Welcome, Jan Buchsbaum. So Jan is the Chief Product Officer at NASA. Jan, welcome.
Thank you. It's been a while. Happy to be here. Always fun.
Yeah. So, okay, for people in our audience, tell us exactly, what do you do at NASA?
So my responsibility at NASA is building our products from scratch, pricing our products. We work a lot with distribution to do that, which we could get into, but really work on organic growth. How are we growing our business, making sure we're building, delivering phenomenal solutions to our customers.
Yeah, well, great. Before we sort of dive in, just give people a little bit of the backstory. I know it, but tell us how what's your background? How did you end up in the insurance sector?
How did I end up here? Wow, So I have a maybe somewhat unique background for people kind of sitting in the seat that I'm sitting at now. Started very entrepreneurial. Started multiple companies earlier in my career in high school and college. Then post that, then went to business school at Georgetown. Spent about 9 years at New York Life, doing everything in the life and annuity business, mostly in the annuity business, multiple different roles. Really phenomenal learning experience. And then in 2017, came over to Nassau to lead product development, and been doing that ever since. And it's been just a fantastic experience, fantastic ride, and we are just getting started.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, it was a great year. You launched 2 products. I know them exceptionally well, and I think Tisa and I did a few commercials, for these products, over the last few months. But maybe take us through, how does sausage get made? Like, what does the design process look like today? I'd be interested to know, how has that changed from what it may have been in the past?
So there's a couple of things, I guess, the way to address that. One of it is Nassau specifically. So we have a very kind of entrepreneurial mindset in general across the organization, and we're relatively small, very nimble. And part of that, entrepreneurs often have this mindset of extreme ownership, which allows us to move quickly, work across multiple different areas, and bring solutions to market that matter. And what that means, I think, how it's changed over time. Decades ago, you might have had, actuaries or pricing people in the background, kind of coming up with ideas and figuring out what might, work in a certain segment, or you might have, distribution people in a certain place. What we try to do is actually merge three kind of concepts at the same time. And so one of the things we talk about is making sure you could hold all of these three things simultaneously. And that is, what is the market? Who is the consumer that we're trying to serve? Distribution, right? Who are we working with? How are we getting these products and solutions to the consumer? And then the product that fits alongside it. So you need to be able to kind of bring all of these three things together to make sure that you're doing all of it at the same time. You're thinking about the competitive landscape. You're thinking about the solutions that are going to matter to the consumers. You're understanding what the consumer is, who they want, and where they are, and how you can best reach them. And if you could do all three of those things at the same time, and then also keep that extreme ownership, entrepreneurial mindset, to me, that's kind of the key to creating great value.
And what is the best feedback you get? Is it from agents, from consumers directly, from industry conferences, data? Where do you get your inspiration, if we want to put it this way?
So there's three different areas. There's market data, right? What does the market tell us, just in the pure data, on what consumer wants? So, and what they will want. What does the demographics look like? You'd want to look at different segments, especially the middle market, which is mostly where we serve. How are they growing? How are they changing? What are their lifestyles, wants, and needs? So there's definitely market research and data that we have to consider when we're designing something. But also we want to speak to the consumers directly, which Paul and Tisa are definitely a big part of. And we want to make sure that we're working very, very closely with distribution. Distribution often has the closest ear to the ground and understanding what consumers' wants and needs are and how that might be shifting over time. So we're putting all of these things together in how we think about what we need to build and how we need to build it and what will work best.
Hey, Jan, when I came, I was led to believe, that the industry was not progressive, that it doesn't embrace change, technology, and these product launches take forever. You talked a bit about the entrepreneurial spirit at Nassau. Can you speak a bit about what does it take to kind of force yourself to embrace innovation and technology, even if the industry hasn't been forced to change, right? Over the time. What's your mindset internally with the team on embracing innovation and kind of making sure that's foremost in where you guys are going?
Well, so a couple of things. I think we could always be faster. One of the things, like the way we think about things here, is it's great what you did yesterday, but how do we get better? How do we do more? How do we get faster? How do we get more efficient? That is a constant mindset. It's always about constant growth and improvement. And that is something that kind of permeates our culture. So if you have that from the top down all the way through, you're always looking at every single piece of the value chain and figuring out and trying to think about, that's what keeps me up at night, is how do we get better? How do we get more efficient? As far as innovation, to me, there's a technology component, but innovation happens not just specifically in terms of the generative AI and service, which we're doing. I think, right, we were one of the first people to launch chat. We're already kind of looking into certain AI things and leveraging things already. But it's also in the product design itself, right? Really maybe thinking about doing things differently than what we've done before, which I think we've done actually with one of the products we launched earlier this year. So you have to do the block and tackling, but you also want to think about how do you get better across the entire thing, and that is going to lead to innovation.
Yeah, and just to, I guess, put some bookends for comparison. Okay, Jan was at New York Life, Michael. I was at MetLife for a bunch of years, and boy, talk about non-speed to market. Like on the life insurance side, I remember there's one stretch where we went like literally 7 years without a new life product, and then when it came out, okay, you talk about disconnects. I mean, the marketing team, Joe Jordan's been a guest on ours. Tisa, next time we have him on, and Bruno, we should talk about it. They had hats Jan printed and shirts for the new product launch. We brought it all out. And then Michael, it didn't work. The system didn't work 7 years later. So, but it was, I think, if I wound it back, I think it was, Jan, you tell me if you think this is not characteristic of a lot of carriers, but it's like it's a little bit backwards in terms of how sometimes it's product design, and it's very siloed. So you start with a research over here, product, and then look at the operations side, the technology, and then one thing happens after another, and there's not connection, talking back and forth, and then there's a miss, or it's taken a very, very long time. How do you turn that on its head? Like, to go faster? You've done 2. Okay, what if Tom tells you you've got to do 3 next year? How do you get a better link to the tech that's supporting the product launch?
Yeah, so I think the tech that's supporting the product launch is definitely, often a longer, pole in the tent when you're trying to create something and build and bring something to market. And we work with Zinnia, for example, but one of the things we do is to break those silos. Is that we have basically joint teams very, very early in the product with some of our outside vendors, so they understand what we're thinking, how we want to build this, so they can get involved in the development extremely, extremely early and say, why don't you do it this way? Why don't you do it that way? So it's not, us sitting in the background coming up with this idea, like I said before, both on the distribution and marketing side, but also on the development and operational aspects of whatever we're building.
Yeah, I was going to jump in there, Michael, to your question. I agree with what you just said, Jan. And to me, it's exactly that. Sitting at NASA, it is the lack of silos. It's the collaboration. So I was smiling earlier because when I think about some of the process we go through to bring product to market, I think it might be kind of unusual to have our product partners, very engaged in the development of marketing materials, brochures, thinking through imagery, talking about personas, making sure, we've nailed down the audiences or the target markets that we want to speak to with product. Like, we do work that way. We certainly all have our, separate divisions of roles and responsibility. But as far as how we're moving faster and embracing that entrepreneurial spirit, I think it has a lot to do with the collaboration and lack of silos is one of the ways that NASA is able to achieve what you've seen so far. So from a technology perspective, I was going to go back to what Paul said. To me, and this is what I've seen happen over the years, it is a shift from that waterfall type of development to more agile, where you don't have to wait, for the product to be fully spec'd out before you start working on the specs for the system or talking about the operational impact. We're talking about that all up front. To Jan's point, we're meeting early, having meetings with the vendors. And so I think that helps because you don't get 7 steps down into the process and figure out, oh, that's not going to work with step 2. And we have to go back, right, and do the rework. So I do think part of how we're moving faster too is a little bit more of an agile approach to development versus waterfall, which traditionally the industry has done and is still doing in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and Michael, you spent a lot of time. You spent a lot of time banking business transaction where you just stuff had to be real time, had to go quick, had to be locked down. If you think like. Maybe talk through, how do you see this world evolving from a product standpoint, and what is possible, a year from now?
Sure, and I think so. The approach we've taken is, I think, Tisa and Jen, you kind of brought up, which is the historical way this stuff has been built is technology in a waterfall fashion, and this very sequential set of handoffs, even between systems. So what we started to do years ago at Zinnia to hopefully get to a better state of providing pipes to run fast is to decouple and detach technology from itself, frankly. And what I think, the term I use for this industry a lot is where in the banking side and the trading side, it is about real time. It is about, algorithmic trading. I think the insurance industry needs what I call simple elegance in terms of the technology, right? Which is to break down certain walls and barriers where let technology shine in what it does well, but don't stretch it beyond what it needs to do, And I think in decoupling a lot of the monoliths that have been serving the industry to date, we're getting to a stage now, hopefully, where we can get to an order of magnitude faster with how we do these launches. And that's what I want to hear from the team here, which is how do we get that next exponential gain, right? From 2 years to 6 months. How do we get to a couple of months? How do we get to a month? And that's what I want to provide from a tech perspective to the team. And I think we're getting there, but I want to hear from the team on how do we multiply that.
Jan, take it.
How do we multiply to a few months? I think what Michael was saying is probably the key. Is how can we break down what we've been doing so that it's much simpler, right? When you think about banking transactions I think it's a great comparison, where any sort of change can be updated quickly and then it'll flow through the system. So you don't have to wait, months to launch a new index or something like that. Especially, kind of simpler things like that. And making sure that maybe that's what you have to do. I'm not an expert on the technology side, but to me, that sounds intuitive, where you kind of strip everything down and kind of rebuild it so that it's simple.
So switching gears here, you mentioned demographics, which is a significant driving force in pretty much everything in the entire economy. We still have the baby boomers. Most people don't know how long they're going to live. I know there's substantial efforts at NASA with the income accelerator, or the premium personal annuity income. I'm not sure I got the names right, but I think I somewhere along those lines. I know there's a lot of efforts there. I know there's a lot of education, not just within the company, but at large within the industry. Where do you see those lifetime products going in the next few years, the next few decades, and how do you think the mass market or the middle market is going to embrace that?
So I'll tell you, at NASA, we focus on basically like the three key categories of fixed products. MYGAs, fixed index annuities, focus on accumulation, and then income. We'll talk about income because that's where you're going with that question. But our goal is to have kind of a well-rounded portfolio so that no matter what the consumer's objective and focus is, we have a fantastic solution that could meet their need. And I think we have one of the most diverse portfolios, I think, in terms of sales for those needs. As far as income goes, one of the things we always talk about, the decumulation, like spending in retirement, is a totally different animal than accumulation. In my opinion, accumulation, like growing, it's easy, right? Save as much as you can, invest it, and sequence of returns doesn't matter, right? I had the conversation with somebody the other day. If one year it's up 10 and the next year it's down 5, when you're saving, it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Major impact when you're retiring. And then the other thing is retiring is, how long do you want to plan for? What do you want to do? When do you want to do it? Right? How do you want to spend that time? What is Social Security going to look like? And so I think it becomes much more complicated. And because of that, the guaranteed income products are just going to continue to be more and more prominent. I think rates increasing the last couple of years has given a great opportunity for the market to tell our story of how valuable these things are. And I think we've kind of broken through. And I see that continuing. Like, one of the things that we've done, we launched a product earlier this year, which you alluded to, which is probably, in my opinion, one of the most unique, I think, innovative guaranteed income solutions. So it's the same has same capabilities as all the other guaranteed income solutions on the market. You're 55, you want to retire at 65, get guaranteed income for life, no problem. You're 60, you want to retire at 66 or 62, you turn it on, you get guaranteed income for life. You're basically buying an option to get guaranteed income for life. And because consumers can't hedge mortality risk or longevity risk, only insurance companies can do that. It provides insurance companies, because of these products, to basically always allow the consumer to outperform and be better off, right? If you want to have more guaranteed income, spend more, have more fun, aside from the fact that guaranteed income annuities reduce risk, they allow you the ability to actually do more with your retirement. What we did in this product, so I'll just talk about a little bit, is we gave the consumer the opportunity to accelerate income, so take more for up to 8 years. So you can say when you're 60, you get this product. You know what? When I'm 64, I want to turn this on. I want flat guaranteed income for life. Or you could say, I'm 64, I want to retire, and I want to take a bunch of vacations. I want to party more the first 3 years. So let me dial it up. And this product allows you to dial it up almost to the dollar, okay, for those 3 years or 2 years or 5 years or 6 years, whatever you want up to 8 years, and you could do more. And there's the other reason we created this is not just because you might want to spend more for that period, but also if you want to delay Social Security. So a lot of people want this Social Security income, but as you know, if you delay Social Security, every year you delay, you get higher guaranteed income for life. So you could dial this up, delay Social Security, and then create a combined income stream that's even higher than you had before. So those are the two primary purposes of this product. But again, you could use it the way anybody's always used it, but now you have this optionality that really hasn't existed before in this way, that we think is super exciting. So, talk about, innovation and meeting the consumer needs. I think this is going to be something that's very valuable for consumers.
Well, that's a lot to unpack there. And,
sorry, I went on too long.
No, I think it's good, and I think I mean, the whole way you bring it up absolutely brings another dimension here, and that's the income part. That people know what their assets are. People know what they can aggregate their bank accounts and their CDs, their mutual funds, and get an idea what their personal balance sheet will look like. But what that personal income statement will look like for an unknown period of time, that's a major unknown. And having solutions like that definitely helps consumers frame, or at the very least ask the right questions and have something to manage and to achieve their goals. So I think that's a really good step forward.
I'll tell you a quick story. I was talking to someone, a pre-retiree, last week, and they did their machinations of calculations. They said, I have X million dollars or a million, whatever it is. I have X dollars in the bank. I'm going to do the 3% rule or 3.5% or 4% rule. Was it 4% or 4.5% rule? And they say, okay, so I can get X amount of dollars. And so I'm good. I'm like, that's terrible. Why do you want to be good? Don't you want to be great? Don't you want to have the optimal solution you possibly can? Right. And that's what a lot of producers, agents, advisors are out there doing, right? They're putting all this together, and maybe 4% is the right thing for this person, but do your homework, figure it out, plan it all together. And why settle, right? All these people, everyone has spent so much time, so much effort saving and accumulating. Let's put people in the best possible position to have the most wonderful retirement they possibly can. What an amazing thing we get to do in this industry.
Couldn't agree more. And that risk pooling aspect is available for car accidents, for flooding, for life insurance, for so many so many areas in our life that protects us. But living too long still seems to be the number one thing that people don't necessarily foresee themselves in, but it's real, and it's a major issue at a time when people are not necessarily able to navigate or to pivot or to be flexible. So I think those solutions are extremely valuable for retirees and pre-retirees.
kind of sad too that like the idea of planning to live longer sounds very different than planning to live too long. Like, right? So it's a sad idea that as you plan that later half of your life, that what you really have to contemplate is that what if I live too long? Like the idea that I need to cut it short because I'm going to outlive my money. So where I'm going with that is I'm going to ask a question. So I think like what you were talking about, Jan, is like the goals in retirement have shifted, right? Like whereas before it may have been like, we'll retire, buy the second home, and maybe have a nice cruise. That just the goals of what people want to do in retirement look very different. The opportunity to travel looks different. Like just what is out there as far as what that phase of life, even from a health perspective, mobility perspective, right? It's just you're doing a marathon. You're just doing different things that were never a part of sitting. It's not sitting on a porch anymore in a rocking chair, right? So my question is, as we think about that shift in retirement, any insights, data, things you're hearing out there that might lead into product design around the generation behind that, right? So maybe not the pre-retiree, but coming behind the 30, the 40-year-old. Oh, sorry. Any sentiment on like how is retirement going to reframe or reshape yet again and those goals, and like how do we think about products that meet those types of needs, or is it the same? Is it the same story again?
I'll tell you what, I think that there's a perception that the future generation of retirees, the people in their 40s and 50s, are going to be the ones focused on experiences and doing things and getting out there. But from what we're seeing, like that's happening with the current retirees, right? I don't think anybody's interested in sitting on the porch. People are much more active, right? So that is already taken place. And I think that's why our solutions are starting to resonate even more, because we are giving the opportunity or help people like really live their best lives. So I think that's happening already.
So, question, Jen, on that, I think you've called out a great, how's the dynamic shift where my father's generation and even another generation where it's, retirement is bank on Social Security, and, for an immigrant parent, sometimes it's relying on your kids to take care of you, right?
Or pensions, remember those?
Or pensions that, how many of those still exist? But maybe talk a bit about that dynamic you just kind of introduced, but, what does a good life look like? What does a good retirement look like? And when you guys design products for the future and now, is it just as much is it just as much appreciating the perspective of, hockey terms, where the puck is going, where the cost of living is going, what's going to constitute a good retirement when Social Security may not be there, right? When pensions are not there, and maybe that generation of banking on your kids to help take care of you isn't kind of the mindset anymore. Like, does this become part of the thinking now versus, just crunching the numbers, so to speak? And how much of a role does it play in how you guys perceive what's next?
So, I mean, on Social Security, I think people retiring now or about to, they're probably okay. I think they're okay. It's maybe the younger generations, 20s, 30s, 40s, that maybe need to, save more and prepare for that. As far as like what does a good retirement looks like, I think it's completely individual, right? That's why we encourage people to talk to their planner, talk to their agent, talk to their, friends, talk to their spouses, and say, what do we want to do? What is like the dream? How do we want to live our lives? And then figure out how we get as close to it or better than it, or whatever it is. I think it really is individualistic. Everybody has different things. Some people want to downsize and go to, Florida. Some people want to, stay in a big house and have family over all the time. Some people want to go on cruises and travel. It's so individualistic, which I think is also very interesting. Maybe 20 years ago, everybody did the same thing, as kind of Tisa was alluding to. It's so everybody's retirement is so unique, it seems.
Yeah, well, okay, two observations, a question or notes. Footnote number one is, in full disclosure, Jan, Michael and the team at Zinnia brought that that product, novel, unique product to life.
That's
so
right.
Michael, want to thank you as a former employee of NASA, a future one of Zinnia. I think we've got something good going here over the long haul. Second is,
That's right. And it's a very unique product, not a simple design. So we appreciate everything you guys did helping us bring that to market, and it's so far so great.
Yeah. Now, second of all, on the marketing stats, okay, Zinnia went out with a really interesting company to do a survey of people across the country about their retirement outlook and where annuities fit. It's all embargoed. it's going to come out in October, but Jen, you're going to love the stats.
Yeah, send it my way, please.
Yeah,
I want an advance copy.
You really will. We're going to have
Can I get an advance copy of that?
Yeah, sideway. Yeah, you know what? We'll work it out. You're gonna love this. Okay, love it.
Cool.
We will have a show on this as it comes up. I just came back from LIMRA, and I think it's probably one of the strongest LIMRA conferences, national conferences I've been to. There are two topics that sort of dominated the discussion. By the way, if you're in the life insurance space, you kind of felt like the stepchild here with the discussion. Topic number one was annuity growth. Dave Levinson in his speech really kind of set the stage, talking about the explosive growth we've seen in product sectors here. What do you predict for 2025?
For 2025, so I think the interest rate market will have an impact more so potentially on MYGA products. They've historically, if you look back over the last 30, 40, 50 years, very sensitive to interest rates. So we had a big boom as interest rates rapidly increased. But even with interest rates coming down a bit, it's still the absolute rate for a lot of these products are still very strong. So I expect that to still continue, at a solid pace, maybe not kind of the growth that we've seen the last couple of years. For FIAs specifically, I think we've broken through. I think we've added so many consumers and a lot of distribution as an industry over the last couple of years that I think we will see some modest growth. I don't know if we'll see the 30% increase we saw over the last 2 years, but we're in a pretty good spot to continue kind of a healthy growth trend in those markets. So definitely, I think 25 will be solid long-term, very, very bullish on index annuities, fixed products to provide these solutions for consumers. I think we'll continue to see probably long-term growth, maybe around double digits. Obviously some years more, some years less, but somewhere around that range. So very bullish about the industry, very, very bullish about the solutions and consumers, and yeah.
Well, just kind of pulling that thread a little bit. You mentioned interest rates, so rates come down. Common wisdom is equity markets are going to start to rip and roar. We saw a lot of growth in that RILA category. Do you think RILAs as a sector starts to take off? What about variable annuities? Those have been shrinking. Any chance those are going to come back?
So I think what we've seen is probably RILAs have taken off. And I think they continue to. I think they've really taken a lot of the variable annuity share. I think it's part of the industry in general. Carriers want to have more kind of fixed type assets, reduces some of the risk, allows, especially for guaranteed income products, to provide more value to the consumer as far as the guaranteed income goes. So that's why I think that even with the market ripping, we might see a little bit of an uptick in VAs. But I think RILAs are probably here and here to stay, especially in the bank and broker-dealer channels.
So Jen, do you think, given the nature of annuities and what role they're playing in larger portfolios, and we know that that enabling mass growth of this product is still plenty of room to grow, so to speak. Do you think it's a specific technology lever? Do you think it's a bit of AI? What do you think is that next? What do you think is going to be the next major enabler that allows for that annuity explosion, beyond the bounds of where we are today, which is still relatively, limited based on the overall portfolio of an individual.
So I think enabler is the right word. How do we use technology to enable both speed to market and also reduce costs? Right? Anything we could do to kind of bring that down from a technology standpoint to build things for cheaper, better, faster, or allow us to provide even more consumer value as an industry overall. And it'll also allow us to better customize, better meet the direct needs of the consumer, right? The product that we launch is highly customizable to the consumer. That's what makes it so awesome. There's for sure more things that we could do, and we could use technology to enable further customization. And the more we do that, that will better enable, make it easier for consumers to, and producers who sell it, consumers to purchase our products, know how to use it. And so that's kind of where I think we need to go as an industry. How do we make it, faster, better, cheaper technology?
Yeah, I agree with you, Jan. And I would add to that enablement lane technology on two more points, kind of like just on the education side of, I'll say generating the demand, but at least informing consumers and educating them on like why an annuity. Because some of the barrier to growth is just people not understanding how it fits into their plan, why they should pay attention, the advantages and benefits of it. And I do think there's, more of the self-service, I'm going to learn on my own and then I'll talk to an agent type of consumer out there. And to the extent technology can, intersect there with the virtual, agent or any other type of resource that they can interact with on their own first, would help drive the growth. And then the second piece of that is the purchasing experience, the buying process. And I think technology can move that forward to make it simpler, to your point, make it easier, make it faster, Jan, so that when people actually do make the buying or purchase decision working with their agent, that it feels seamless. It's more digital, right? It's in their pocket. It's on the go. All the things that they have in almost every other purchase decision in their life today. I'll leave the name with the big A out of the podcast for now, but we all know that company and consumers, liken every purchase experience to that now. So their expectations have changed, and I think technology can enable that as well.
Yeah, and I would say, our friend Mike Ebmeyer was on a panel there, Jan, with at Limmer, and his perspective was, I think, had a lot to say. A lot of good topics in there, but one of my takeaways was, improving user experience would be a big enabler for future growth, especially in some of these alternative channels that we see growth here. Well, listen, we're close to the top of the time. Let's kind of go around. Bruno, last question or thought for Jan?
No, keep up with the new products and that specific demographic. I think it's good, and I'm not going to unpack everything you said because there's a lot of a lot of points. Exactly. I think every single one of those topics could be one. But no, thanks for coming.
Yeah. Tisa, what other questions for Jan do you have?
Not a question, just a comment, which would be, Jan, I am super excited to be a part of this team and to continue the growth story we have here. And to Michael's question of innovation, I think simply these 5 minds meeting this morning, 4 of them being from, 2 companies that are partners, that in itself signals a different wave, different chapter in the industry. The fact that we can still collaborate beyond the show together and do other things outside of this show. So I think more spirit and more energy around those types of collaborations will drive us all forward. So thank you for your time today.
Yeah. And Michael, product development, product design, bringing speed to market. That's you. This is your wheelhouse. Thoughts, questions for Jan?
Yeah, no. In this case, I think we covered a lot, and my goal, simply put, is can we enable the industry to put these products in the hands of consumers that need them, right? And we've kind of covered the whys today, but my challenge to Tisa and Jen and team is to keep innovating and to keep challenging our relationship so that we can be tip of the spear for this industry in terms of where it goes from an innovation perspective, a tech perspective. And my goal is to always be there to listen to the next idea and make sure we're also pushing you guys on the technology front to be better. So just continue to challenge us in the partnership and be a partner in the tip of the spear for where the industry's going.
Yeah, Jan, these are such softball questions. Jeez. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot and write this thing down. 2027. Okay, we get you back on the podcast. What's happened in the insurance industry? What's the biggest event that you think has occurred?
The biggest event occurred in the insurance industry.
Yeah, or a trend or a product or, looking back.
I'll tell you what, it seems like every month the world moves so much faster than it used to. I think that's true. I think what I'd like to see for the industry overall is bigger sales overall, like a bigger pie, and continue focus on more consumer-oriented solutions. Just making it easier for the consumer. A continued focus on where in 2027, like it's broadly recognized across the industry, across the financial industry, about how valuable these solutions are to consumers, and people are looking to us to help continue to guide and help their have the best possible retirements they can.
Okay, well, excellent. Well, hey, listen, Jan, thanks for making time, and I'd like to thank our listeners for being here with us on the journey. And listen, if you like the show, share it with your friends, and if you have any suggestions on future guest or topics, reach out to us. We've got a contact section on our website. But anyway, no matter what, join us again next week for another great episode of That Annuity Show. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information or listen to more episodes at thatannuityshow.com. Nassau Financial Group is always working harder to be your carrier of choice. We build products that help protect people's savings and are dedicated to providing you with best-in-class service. We seek to keep things simple and have your back in the years to come. Nassau is headquartered in Hartford, Connecticut. Learn more at nfg.com.
Zinnia, an Eldridge Industries business, simplifies insurance. It delivers comprehensive solutions for the industry's most critical needs and creates the modern rails of the insurance industry. To learn more about Zinnia, please visit zinnia.com.